I'm Lapper, this is Zenless Zone Zero, and you and other proxies are asking the question, who should I choose in version 3.1? Or you may have been asking that a few weeks ago when this patch came out. However, you could still be asking it. A lot of people are still asking this question. Now, to be clear, this video is not going to be about the banners in version 3.1. That is a totally separate subject. We are talking about three things in this video. First is the Marcel anniversary gift, which is the special selector. You get to choose from a number of agents. The second is the custom search function, which hopefully will be updated more in the future, but for now gave us three new options to add to our 50-50 lost pool. And third, the Filmgoer thank you gift, which is aka the spending events, which allows you to get a choice of agents at the highest spending level. So let's go ahead and start with the free selector, the Marcel anniversary gift. Now, who is on this one if you haven't chosen it yet, which many of you may have? First, we got Jane Doe, then Lucia, Hugo, Trigger, and Soldier Zero and B. Now, running down the list real quick in case you don't know them, Jane is a physical anomaly agent. So Flex DPS, can play in the main or sub DPS, and fits into many anomaly teams, including the new Remiel anomaly team. Lucia is a Rupture support. That is all she does. She's very good at it. If you're playing Rupture and you don't have her, and you're probably having a bad time. Hugo is an ice main DPS with a special double stunner comp. Trigger is an electric stunner for attackers in the double attacker comp, the O-Ball squad. And Soldier Zero and B is a main DPS electric attacker for the double attack meta. So, let's start with unknown agents, assuming that you want to pick an agent that you do not have. Criteria number one, choose the agent that you personally like playing and build a team around them. Now, you probably already knew that, but that is the most important factor. The most important thing in Zenless Zone Zero is enjoying the game and having fun with the characters that you play. For me, if I'm not having fun with the character that I'm playing, that's not enjoyable for me. So that's always the most important criteria. But moving past that, if you have a Rupture team and you do not have Lucia, choose Lucia. This is going to make a major difference for your Rupture teams. Take it as somebody who did not get Lucia and will not be getting Lucia. Even Yixuan, the Void Hunter, or maybe Void Hunter, without Lucia, with just Pan, without a limited stunner, it's really rough out there. Probably similar results for anybody who has pulled a Rupture agent and does not have Lucia and a nice stunner for them. So go ahead and do that. It'll fix up your Rupture team. Now, some people speculate that the fact that Lucia is being given away, despite her importance on Rupture teams, may indicate there could be a future character in her slot. That is quite possible. However, if you don't have her and you have a Rupture team, I still think it's worth picking her up. Next, if you have Yuzuha and or Valina and or Remiel, and you don't have Jane Doe, I recommend choosing Jane Doe. She's very fun. She's very strong. A lot of people like to say that she's not really very good until you get M2, but even at M0, if you have the power behind her, she has two really great premium teams in the Yuzuha Alice monophysical team, as well as in the new Remiel Valina triple anomaly team. She is quite good. You build her well, and she's going to get work done. Do you need her if you already have other anomaly agents? Absolutely not, especially if you have a nice, well-built Alice or Piper or Arya, Premia, another very powerful anomaly agent that can be going into your anomaly teams. You don't necessarily need her, and keep in mind she is in the special invitation shop. However, she's the one that I chose for a different reason, and I quite like playing her. Next, if you have Orphe and or Trigger, and you don't have Ambi, you can go ahead and choose Ambi. So if you have Orphe and Trigger, or a lot of O-Ball squad agents that could play nice with Ambi, Ambi could be a good addition to your account. Is she the most meta electric DPS right now? No. Do we have another electric DPS coming out very soon? Yes, we do. You keep that in mind. But that electric DPS is not really going to be able to play nice with Orphe or Trigger, I assume. And lastly, if you don't have any limited stunner, you could choose Trigger and her W engine. Trigger is not a bad stunner. There are a lot of very strong stunners. It seems like they're coming out with stronger ones all the time. But if you are truly desperate for stunners, Trigger is not a slouch. I would say her main limitation would be her team compatibility, right? She's only able to play with electric and attackers. Mostly she plays on those Obel squad teams with maybe Seed or Ambi, something like that. But she can also play on certain other teams as long as there's an electric agent on there. So if you want to specifically get an agent that you don't have yet, that's what you got. Now, let's say that you have one or more of these agents and you're thinking, I maybe want to go for Mindscapes. Let's look at the best choices for those Mindscapes. Now, if you have Jane M1, you know what I'm going to say. Go for Jane M2. Jane M2, despite what I said earlier, is a huge upgrade. She does make a big difference. Jane M2's main effect is she'll increase her critical damage on her assaults as well as the team's assaults up from a 50% crit damage to a 100% crit damage, which does translate to a big damage increase for her and for the team if that damage is transferred, for example, monophysical. That's going to improve Alice's assault damage. That's big. But also in the Remiel team and in really any team you put her on, the Hypercarry team, the normal double anomaly team, whatever you're doing, Jane is better at M2. So if you're not quite there yet, maybe you have her M0 already, or you can get M1. Getting to M2 is a great upgrade for Jane. Highly recommend that one. Likewise, if you have Hugo M1, get Hugo M2. Is Hugo one of the best DPS in the game right now? He's not, but Hugo's M2 is a sizable upgrade for him, allowing him to get a double totalize in the stun window and allowing him to be played with agents like Dai Lin that'll give him an additional ultimate that he can actually make use of instead of just hitting for nothing with no totalize. So if you can bump Hugo up to that M2 from an M1, that is going to be a massive upgrade for him specifically, if you're a Hugo main. Next, if you have Lucia already, this is what a lot of people were considering. If you have Lucia M0 or M1, you could pretty strongly consider going for Lucia M1 or M2. Those are both going to be nice team upgrades. That's going to improve her buffing capabilities. So definitely a great option there. That might be the first option for a lot of people who aren't necessarily looking to improve their DPS. They want to make their support a little bit stronger. Lucia does absolutely improve at those early Mindscapes, so those could be a good choice. Next, if you are an Ambi main, you got your Ambi at M1 somehow. Ambi M2 is not bad. That is a nice breakpoint for her, so you can go Ambi M2 from M1. And lastly, if none of those apply, but you still want to get a Mindscape, Trigger at M0 or M1, you can go ahead and bump her up to M1 or M2, and you should see some pretty decent improvements there. However, I would recommend that after any of the other priorities. Now, we haven't really addressed the W engines. I would say that for people who are picking up a character they don't have yet, for the most part, you can go ahead and get the W engine with picking them up for the first time. However, if you are not going that way, if you have any of these agents already and they don't have a strong W engine, for example, Trigger, her W engine is very important to her. Some people like to joke that Trigger's W engine is more important or just as important as Trigger. Depends on whether you believe that, but it is quite powerful, applying that defense down effect, and really only Trigger can use it. So if you have one of these agents, they don't have a good W engine, then you can go ahead and get their W engine for them, and that'll work out well. If you have an attack agent, and that attack agent specifically is not one of the ones on the list, but they still don't have their SIG, they don't have a good W engine, you can go ahead and give them either Hugo's or Ambi's W engine. Both of these have a number of nice generic buffs on them that are going to be applicable to a nice number of agents. Hugo has, I believe, some nice crit rate on there. Ambi has a large number of crit damage on there. So even though those aren't like the best necessarily generalist attacker W engines, they are quite good and generic. So you can get those for your attacker main. If you don't have their SIG for some reason, you can kind of patch them up there. And lastly, if you have Alice or Piper, maybe you're a Piper main or an Alice main who didn't get her SIG, and they don't have a nice W engine, which is a strange situation because, as we all know, Weeping Gemini R5 is a great free-to-play W engine for anomaly agents of all stripes. So you could just use that. However, if you were so inclined, you could take Jane's signature W engine and use that on Alice or Piper and play it out that way. So let's move on to the custom search function. What even is that? If you're coming from Honkai Star Rail, you may know this as the Celestial Invitation, aka the 50/50 Loss Pool Selector. Now, to be very clear, these characters, even though they are next to and adjacent to the standard characters, they are not standard characters. They're not going to be on the standard banner. The only way that you can get them through the system is by pulling on limited banners and losing your 50-50 or 75-25, as the case may be for Agent or for W Engine. So let's look at our options here and recommend maybe you want to customize that 50-50 loss pool so that when you unfortunately do lose that 50-50, maybe you can get something that is actually useful to you and your account or some nice Mindscapes. So taking a look at our standard agents that we already have, we know these. Nekomata, she's a physical attack main DPS, got a nice buff recently with her potential unlock, so she's a lot more attractive for a lot of accounts than maybe she used to be. Soldier 11 is a fire attacker main DPS. She also got a potential unlock a little bit ago and is looking much better. Kaleda is a stunner for Rupture and Attack Team. She is getting a potential unlock upcoming here in a future version, so keep an eye out for that. Lycan is a stunner for Ice and is quite good for any team, but especially anomaly teams. He has a compatibility with there. And Grace, who is an electric anomaly agent, she's a very flexible DPS. She can play into a lot of different anomaly teams, including the new Valina teams. And lastly, Rena, an electric support who just got her potential unlock. She can play with anomaly and attack teams as well as potentially upcoming teams, just not the Rupture teams. And her potential unlock has improved her a bit as well. Now, we already know about all of those 6 agents. Let's talk about the 3 new or returning agents who will be available to put in. First is Tsukishiro Yanagi, who is an electric anomaly agent. That's Jinx from Grace. She is also a flexible DPS who can generate these disorders. And Caesar, who's a physical defense agent, kind of a hybrid, a jack of all trades. Initially that helped her, but now maybe not so much. And lastly, Zhu Yuan, who is an ether attacker main DPS, is in an interesting position right now due to recently released free agents. So those are our 9 options. And from those, we may select 6, exactly 6. Now, imagine you can go all the way down to 2 or 1 and get the exact one you couldn't. No, we can't do that. First and foremost, just like the previous section, highest priority, choose the agents that you personally like to play and build teams around them. It may sound trite, but that is the most important thing. Pushing past that, let me talk about first the 6 agents I would recommend putting in just generically if you do not own them. Top priority for agents you do not own but would like to pick up, I'd be looking at Yanagi, Nekomata, Lycan, Soldier 11, Grace, and Rena. I think that if you don't have one or more of these agents, they're definitely a good option to include. They can add some value to your account potentially, but of course that's going to vary depending on your account. Maybe you already have Yisheng Guang, for example, and you don't feel that you need Nekomata, or if you already have a nicely well-built Grace or another anomaly agent, maybe you feel you don't need Yanagi. At a lower priority that I wouldn't necessarily recommend picking up at this time would be Caesar, Kaleda, and Zhu Yuan. Now, Kaleda is getting a potential unlock, so that could change things in the immediate future and make her more relevant, but at the moment, she is not a very high value. Caesar, I love so much. She is so cool. She can do so many things. She can do a little damage. She can do stun. She is support. She can protect your team. She's got the buffing. She's got the shield gate that literally makes you immune to a single hit. However, that game has pushed away from Caesar. ZZZ is now more in the direction of iframes and special parries and control skills and all these things. Caesar is not really, and maybe the defense class in general, where we would necessarily want to be putting onto our team as a support. We have a lot of other support options now. Zhu Yuan, unfortunately, I mean, a lot of people love Zhu Yuan. She's one of the first agents, but we do now have Pyroas as a free ether attack agent, and we are getting free vertical investment for Pyroas, as well as a lot of great power from Pyroas. So a lot of proxies may feel that having Zhu Yuan may be irrelevant or less relevant for them now that we have Pyroas. So let's say that you have one or more of these agents and we want to think about which Mindscapes we might want to go for and keeping agents in the pool to get more Mindscapes. Well, first and foremost, any agents that are at or near M6, I would highly recommend keeping in. You might think, take them out because I want to get the new agents, but if they're at M6 and then you get M7 or higher, you will get one of these special invitation cards, which if you get 2 of them will allow you to pick a agent from the shop. Currently, there may not be any agents you want on there. Right now it's Qingyi, Bernice, Jane, as well as the standard characters. However, they could add more agents in there in the future, and that card is a wildcard option. You will always be able to use that at your discretion. So if they're at M4, M5, M6 especially, I would say keep them in unless you desperately want something specific from someone else. Mindscapes that are very nice to pick up. Yanagi just in general, Soldier 11 and Nekomata all have very nice Mindscapes, and so you really can't go wrong. You can just go ahead and leave them in there all the way and get as many Mindscapes as you want. Next, specific Mindscapes that you may want to pick up, and then after which you may take them out of the pool if you desire. Rena's M1 is quite good for her. That's going to extend her uptime. That may be a little bit less important now after her potential unlock, but I think it is still going to improve. I think it also helps with her pen ratio improvement, so that could be nice too. Lycan's M1 and M2 potentially increase his stunning capacity a little bit, and Caesar M1 and M2 potentially increasing her support and utility that she has. And lastly, you could go for Mindscapes for these agents, but you don't necessarily need them. Kaleda up to M2. Her M2 does have some nice effect on it. You can get a refund on her EX, so she can really get that stun in there very fast. Grace, M6 is her first viable Mindscape that actually does anything. Speaking as somebody who was at M5 for Grace forever and just got her M6, it's nice, but Grace is very nice on her own. She doesn't necessarily need a ton of Mindscapes. You don't have to leave her in for that. And Zhu Yuan, seeing as you can get Pyroeus Mindscapes as I record this up to M4, but eventually potentially up to M6. Zhu Yuan does not necessarily need Mindscapes unless you are going to be maining her. So those are our choices that I would recommend. Let's go ahead and move to the W engine portion of that. These can be totally separate, and some of these W engines are more valuable than the agents themselves. Case in point, Caesar is one of the first W engines I would recommend. Her W engine is generically very good for defense agents. A lot of different defense agents can use it. It improves days and has a nice impact on it. I think for Pan, for maybe Zhao, it's an excellent option, especially if you didn't pick up some of their SIGs, or it can improve any of their stats very nice there. Yanagi also has quite a nice W engine that can be used on her, as well as Grace, or even another anomaly agent. It doesn't have that effect it used to back in the day, where it was improving anomaly buildup for all elements, but still it is quite a nice engine. Rena's W engine is generically very good for supports, whether you want to spread that around or superimpose it and get it up higher ranks and then not pull for somebody's SIG. It's generically quite useful for a lot of different support agents. Grace's SIG is, that's just a generically useful, good anomaly W engine that a lot of anomaly agents can use. The more readily they can use their EX, the better it becomes. The more they can use Pen, the better it becomes. It's not at all bad, especially at higher imposition, so that one's very nice. Soldier 11's Brimstone. This one's just great. I think that we found that a lot of these attackers that have been coming out have a lot of crit rate on them, so that may limit their ability to use Nekomata's W engine or maybe other crit rate W engines, whereas Brimstone is all attack all the time. That can prove very useful to certain attackers, and that's a very nice one. And Kaleda's, that's just a nice generic stun W engine that can be used very well on a number of different stun agents. Perfectly nice one to recommend there. Less recommended, as I was saying, Nekomata's necessarily, unless you're mini Nekomata, in which case go for it. But as I was saying, a number of attacker agents are less able to use that additional crit rate now. That just seems to be the direction that they're building attackers, so that may be less valuable. Lycan's, the Restrained, is just not that great of a W engine. I think that people would recommend Steam Oven or Kaleda's W engine for him, or maybe the Fossil. You just don't necessarily need his W engine at all, and it's really only useful for him, and it's not that great for him because it's a DPS improvement like a lot of his Mindscapes we don't really need. And lastly, Zhu Yuan's W engine. Unfortunately, this W engine is just not that good on her, and even Brimstone can outclass it at certain impositions. That is just unfortunate. I would not recommend going for Zhu Yuan's W engine on that one. And lastly, wrapping this section up, we have the A ranks. This is going to be pretty simple. Some A ranks are very useful. Some A ranks are less useful. Let's start with the ones I would most recommend that you put on your banner for the rate-up. That would be Nicole, Piper, Pan, potentially Monato. Nicole is a world-class support. She is still great after all this time. Absolutely incredible support. You can play her with Pyroas. You can play her with Anomaly agents, Attacker agents, not necessarily Rupture agents, but I mean, she's just so universal. She's very powerful. Does she have a higher skill ceiling than, say, Astra or Sana? A little bit, but she is quite good. Would highly recommend her all the way up to M6. Piper is just a stellar anomaly agent. She has consistently demonstrated how effective she is at building up physical anomaly. She is a world-class anomaly unit. I'm so glad that players would be able to take advantage of picking her up and building a free-to-play team out of her, or starting their next anomaly team. She can play with Yuzuha teams. She can play with the Remiel teams. She's just great at what she does, and that's building up a ton of anomaly, so that's great there. Pan for any Rupture DPS, right? If you want to build a team from scratch, you could do a lot worse than Pan and Monato as a pair, right? Because Monato is a fire main DPS. Pan is a Rupture support who can benefit Monato with the sheer damage increase. Now, as I was saying earlier, is Pan at the level of Lucia, who is the limited Rupture support? No, he's not. However, he is a great free-to-play alternative. You can build up to Lucia. You could potentially use him and Lucia. He only gives value to Rupture teams, though, so that's the only place I would play him. And for Monato, especially free-to-play players, you don't necessarily have a number of DPSs yet. Monato can kind of fill that gap at the beginning there. Next set of priorities, I'd be looking at Pokra, Lucy, Sokaku, and Seth. They do potentially have slots on teams. Pokra, as a free-to-play stunner, she is okay. She has limitations. She doesn't necessarily have that great damage. Her days is just okay. Her buffs are okay. She's fine. She's just fine. Lucy recently got a skin with her adorable Sailor Suit pigs. Just phenomenal. Lucy is fine as a support. She benefits from that very specific niche of a DPS with a repeating hit EX special at M6 that can trigger her pigs to rain from the sky and do a little bit more damage. Very fun there. Sokaku, mainly on that Miyabi Mono Ice team that may be struggling a little more lately due to the new influx of unfreezable bosses in the past year or so. However, if you can learn to play her properly, yes, she can benefit Miyabi and potentially other Ice DPS. Seth, likewise for Anomaly, he's in a bit of a rough place. Brand new players may find use for him, but maybe Seth can come back into fashion when his brother releases. And lowest in the priority, these ones I would not recommend including on the rate up, Corin, Ambi, Anton, Billy, and Ben. If you like these characters, you go ahead and get them. However, depending on your investments, you may find that you may not get that much value out of them. Corin and Billy mains, I see you. Ben mains, I see you. You have a great time. Go out there and slay. That's awesome. And for the A-rank W engines, there's really only one that you should have your eye on, and that is Kaboom the Cannon, Lucy's W engine. Kaboom the Cannon is the A-rank equivalent of Rina's support W engine, except potentially even more universal than that. It is so universal that almost any support agent in the game can use it. And it is not too hard to keep the uptime on it even without playing Lucy. Just a phenomenal free-to-play W engine. Get the Kaboom the Cannons. Next on the priority list is things that are a little bit less universal. Maybe they can go with the person who is their signature, but not too many other people. That would be Sokaku's, Nicole's, Monato's, Pan's, Pokra's, Piper's, and Set's W engines. You can give them their own W engine. Maybe not the best option for most others. Sokaku's and Nicole's W engine could be used on Astra potentially, or other supports in some cases. And lastly, Anton's, Ambi's, Billy's, Corin's, and Ben's W engines I would not recommend going for. So there's our 50-50 selector. That is the new custom search function recommendations that I would make. And last but certainly not least expensive would be the Filmgoer Thank You Gift Selector, the spending event selector for those lucky and special individuals who have topped up the requisite amount or purchased things in the shop to get to the level where you can get a W engine or a character from the selector. What are the options for you? We have Vivian, who is a anomaly ether agent. She's a sub DPS. Astra Yao, who is an Ether support, plays with attack agents, but also literally anybody, and Seed, who is an electric attack main DPS in the double attack meta. So let's start with, if you don't own one of these agents, you want to potentially pick up an agent from this selector that you don't have yet. As I said in the previous sections, I'll say it quickly again, choose the agent that you personally like playing and build a team around them. That is the most important thing. You should be playing agents that you like to play and look at. That's very important. Next, if you don't have Astra, please choose Astra. Astra is a universal support. Is she the only support that exists? You know other options? No. We do have other options now. If you have Zhao, if you have Rina at a certain level of investment, if you have potentially Yuzaha or Lucia or Sana, these newer limited supports, do you need Astra? No. However, if you're a newer account or if you don't have many of those supports, maybe you're looking for a support for your team, Astra still gets it done. Absolutely nice pick on Astra. Next, if you have Cecilia and or Trigger and you don't have Seed, and you would like Seed, you go ahead and get Seed. Seed can play with Cecilia and make a nice team there. Trigger can still be played with either of them, so that's a nice option there. Some people enjoy playing Seed, and her story was quite memorable for a lot of people as well. And lastly, if you want to invest more into anomaly teams and you don't have Vivian, you can choose Vivian, or you can choose the last secret option, which is the special invitation cards. 2 of those cards, which would allow you to pick an agent at your discretion from the special invitation shop, which currently includes all the standard agents as well as Chingy, Bernice, and Jane. So you could choose Vivian, Bernice, or Jane, or just hang on to them and go ahead and either improve your Jane or round out your anomaly teams. Vivian's place in anomaly teams is not exactly where it used to be, because we now have Nangong for the hypercarry teams, and we now have Valina for the triple anomaly teams. So we don't necessarily have a spot where Vivian is the best on a team, but she is super fun to play in my opinion. She's still quite good. So you could pick her up, or you could pick up Bernice or pick up Jane. Go ahead and round out your anomaly teams there. So let's say that you would like to get a Mindscape or 2. If you have Jane or Seed or Bernice or Vivian at M1, go ahead and move them up to M2. As I said earlier, Jane's M2 is quite impactful. Seed has a pretty nice M2. Bernice's M2, you can make an argument. It has some use. Vivian has a pretty nice M2 as well. You could bump any of those up to M2 if they're at M1 already. Next, I would say if you have Astra at M0 or at M1, you can go ahead and move her up to M1 or M2. Astra does have a very nice M1 that will improve the all-time res pen, as well as start her out with some decibels, and her M2 improves her attack buff, lowers her attack requirements, and increases the frequency at which she hits enemies. And if you don't like any of those options for Mindscapes, just go ahead and pick the special invitations and hold on to those for a future date when maybe that special invitation shop will get a new agent in it that might interest you. And lastly, looking at the W engines, which is actually a little bit cheaper than getting the agent, or you have to top up a little bit less. If you have an attack agent without a strong W engine, you can go ahead and get Seeds. Similar situation to that 50-50 loss pool talked about earlier. Seeds W engine, Cordis Germana, is decently fine for generic choice for attackers. If you have a nice attacker you like to play, you don't have a Sig for them, you don't have Brimstone for them, you don't have anything nice for them, go ahead and give them Cordis Germana. That would be perfectly fine for them. If you have Vivian and you don't have a strong W engine for her, you can go ahead and give her W engine. Or if you have Arya and you don't have her Sig, or if you want to play Arya in the Remiel team, you can get Arya Vivian's signature W engine, and that will be very nice for her. And I would not get Astra's W engine, even though it does make her hair very pretty. It's a nice vanity case, has makeup in it, it looks great. However, I would not recommend getting it, as it is very similar to free-to-play options and does not significantly improve her performance. So if it's not Seeds, if it's not Vivian's, go ahead and hold on to those microcontrollers for future shop updates. Maybe you can pick up some nice W engine in the future. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I am Lapper, this is Endless Zone Zero, and hopefully you now have the answer to the question to who proxies should choose in Zenless Zone Zero version 3.1. Who did you choose? I assume that many of you have already made your choices. You already chose from the selector. Maybe you already fixed up your 50-50 lost pool, and maybe you even lost a 50-50. One of my friends lost them to Yanagi, got a nice Yanagi upgrade. That can be nice. I saw Average Luck Gamer on one of his viewers' accounts lost a 50-50 to Caesar. That was very funny there. Go ahead and tell me down in the comments, who did you choose from each of these? Thank you so much, Proxies, and we'll see you next time.